Guys, I'm going to be answering your Power Apps questions here live. So if you have a question, what I recommend doing, I am sharing my screen here. I'm going to make myself smaller. And if you look in the video description, there is a link directly to this. Okay. So this is a link to the live stream on YouTube. I'm streaming on other platforms besides YouTube, but there's the link to that if you want to join me live here. And then also, this is the link to join me here in Restream, which is the tool that I use to stream on social media. So what I'm going to be doing is monitoring the chat in this live stream. Okay, I'm actually going to say in here, what are your questions? Hopefully people start having some questions. Now, if nobody starts asking questions right away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look here in the Skool community for any unanswered questions. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say no comments and let's see what comes up. Okay, so Matt C, for anybody who'd like to join the Discord. Okay, yeah, I do have a Discord here. I'm going to share that link and I'm going to say thanks, Matt C. All right, here's somebody that asked a question that didn't have an answer. Oh, that's me. Guys, if you want to use SQL against your Dataverse database, there's a free tool called XRM Toolbox. And by the way, so I do see a question here on the screen, and I don't know. That looks like it is a question in a different language. Now, if you could go over to a website, translate.google.com, type whatever that you want to say, translate it to English and paste the question in there, I'll answer the question. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this link. Here we go. Just in case, you don't speak English. Of course, I'm going to be answering in English. So, okay. Yeah, so here's this tool, XRM tool box. And this, Alan actually told me about this. And it's a free tool that allows you to connect to Dataverse, Dynamics 365. And if you think about it, if you got insert, update, delete commands that you'd like to execute against Dataverse, that's probably the most efficient way of doing so. Okay, what is the best way to learn and master Power Apps? Well, the simple question is just just follow my YouTube channel. That's really the best way, right? So now that's a very broad question. Okay. What I would recommend, I mean, I'm a content creator on Power Apps. So of course I'm going to tell you to watch my content. Now I don't know what language that is in, but if you join the free community, there's a link. The first link in the video description is a link that will get you into the community. And I do have a crash course. That's what I would recommend. I have a crash course and a bunch of other stuff here. Okay. And all right, so I'm going to go back here and I also need to filter this again. No comment. Okay. All right, so Savage, now this isn't really a question, but how to create and manage workspaces in Power BI. So if you guys are interested in learning Power BI, that might be a really good way of, check out this post here. So although I've called this Learn Power Apps, we could talk about anything regarding Power Apps. Okay, I do have another community called the Microsoft Stack. Okay, where we can talk about M365, the Power Platform, Azure, SQL Server, .NET, PowerShell, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's another community that I run. But over here in the Power Apps, Learn Power Apps, we can talk about all, Power BI, Power Automate, Copilot, all this stuff. Okay, anything related to the Power Platform is free game here. Now, I'm an expert on Canvas Power Apps. Okay, um, par etape, please. So I don't know what that means. So if you could translate that to English, I'd be able to answer that. And I'm hoping that YouTube or yeah, it looks like Hassan, you are on YouTube. So I'm hoping that YouTube gives you the option to do closed captioning and that it will translate it to what language. I mean, if I had to take a guess, I'm English is the only language that I speak. It sort of looks like French, but I don't know. Let me see. Let me see if I can. And Hassan, you're the only one asking questions here. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to type this par etape by step. Okay, sure. I've got a step by step plan for you. If you go over to Classroom here in this community, okay, I am going to share this link. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Step by step. I'm going to go into Classroom and I do have my YouTube content. And what I try to do is I laid this out from beginner to advanced level. Okay. So I'd recommend you start here. What is Power Apps? That's the first thing I cover. It doesn't get any more basic than that, right? Become familiar with Power Apps. So this was really good basics here. Yeah. Absolutely. So I should start my learning of Power Apps. Otherwise, please make us a playlist. Yeah, here's your playlist right here. Okay. And then I'm gonna share this link with you guys. Okay, there that is. And that should take you directly to this. Now, this is a free community, but you won't be able to watch any of this until you actually register with Skool and that type of stuff. So you'll need to provide your email address and you have to register with Skool. Skool.com. Okay. All right. So, um, with artificial intelligence, large language models, things like ChatGPT, the response that you get from AI is directly proportional to the quality of your prompt. Okay, so somebody asks me a very broad and general question, although I did provide a fairly specific answer, which is, hey, you could go here, you could do my crash course, but give me some specifics. Okay, so what my question to you, Hassan, is think of an app that you'd like to build. Pick a project that excites you, that it's exciting to do. Like if you finish the project, it would make a huge difference in your life or your work or whatever. And try to do that with Power Apps. Now, what you want to do is you want to define what's called a minimal viable product. So you might have an idea to create an app that does like 20 things. No. Don't start there. Start with the core idea. So if you're creating a ticketing system, a Surface desk system, a ticket is the core of that system. Okay. What if you're going to create a whole application that manages all the contact information for all of your customers? What's the core of a CRM? By the way, that's called a CRM, customer relations management, I believe is what CRM stands for. So the core of that is to create a table called customers or contacts and do that one little thing first. Okay. Also, a good way to start is if you saw my live stream that I posted yesterday at 1 p.m. or a few minutes before 1 p.m. It shows you this new feature. Let me show you guys this new feature here. And yesterday I followed it up with a workshop. Okay. So what I said is like, hey, I run a car dealership and I want to keep track of my customers, my employees. So I want to keep track of my salespeople so I can assign commissions and know what salesperson was involved in a sale. So we're selling cars to customers by a salesperson. and we're going to have sales. So you go into sales, we should have some records here. We could go back home. Let's look at our customers. Okay, here's all of our customers here. So this was the result of our workshop yesterday. Okay, so if you go find that live stream, there's links to, and you could go watch all my previous workshops. So if you go in here, I've got a separate Skool community called Power Platform Workshops. Let me put that in there for you guys. And by the way, Kenneth, you are an accelerator student, which means if you would like to join me here now in this live stream, all my accelerator students are welcome to come on these live streams and interact with me. Okay. So Kenneth, I know you've got some questions. Okay. And you just posted one. So I'm going to get to that here in a second. But Kenneth, I'm going to recommend that you go in and, well, gee whiz, where is it? Boom. It's this link right here. If you want to join, go ahead. Anybody that can get to this link, I mean, I guess you could type it right in here and get in, but I need to know, what the questions are, But Kenneth, you're welcome to join right now because I'm familiar with you and the projects you're working on and everything, and you always ask really good questions. So you're welcome to join. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the question that Hassan asked. What's the best way? We'll pick a project. Okay, so you go home and you type in here what type of an app you like to build. Okay, so let's say I need. Let me zoom in on this so you guys can see this better. I need an app that will help me track my personal expenses and revenue, everything in my personal budget. Okay, let's see what it comes up with. Now, you notice, let's try the new data experience. Make sure you check that because it can handle multiple tables. Okay, this is a great way to start with Power Apps because it's not going to require that you know anything at the beginning. You hit this button. Hey, there's Kenneth. Now, Kenneth, if you show your video, I'll bring you on if you're willing to show your video. If you don't want to show your video, just let me know in the private chat and I'll bring you on regardless. But when you show your video, I'll take that as a cue that you're ready to come on. Look at this, revenue and expenses. Okay. I need a budget table. Let's see what it does with this. Okay. Hopefully it creates a table that is related. Okay. Yeah, not so much. Now, yesterday I used an example of a car dealership and it actually linked everything up. It was a wonderful thing. Very nice. So, you know what? Let's just go with this. Let's see what it creates for us. And while I'm waiting for that to come up, I'm going to look at Kenneth's question here. Kenneth, you're welcome to talk with me. Okay, so Kenneth, you have a question. We made a questionnaire a month ago. I watched the video, but there is something that I don't. Let's see. I hear a lot of typing, so I'm gonna lower the volume so we don't hear the typing so much. Um, I watched the video, but there is something that I don't understand in the code. Okay. Yeah, very good. All right, so I'll just keep an eye on the private chat for you, Kenneth. I watched the video, but there is something that I don't understand in the code. Could we take a look at that? You use a switch function. Okay. A questionnaire. Now, Kenneth, let me know, was that a live stream? Was that an accelerator group call? So give me an idea of where I might find that. It was a live stream. Okay. Very good. Well, I'm going to go find that for you. All right. So I'm going to go do a search in YouTube. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going to click on my channel here. I'm going to go to get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to drag this over. And I'm looking at the live streams. Okay, so the question is regarding a questionnaire. Okay. Okay, it must be this one. So I'm going to click on that one. And I'm going to mute that. And I really don't like seeing all those other videos here. I'll get distracted. I'll probably click on one and watch it. That's how YouTube works, right? Okay, so we did a service desk app rewrite. Okay, so I'm going to open up a new thing here, and I'm going to go look for it. And there it is. No, it's not. Rewrite. There we go. There it is. So that might take a minute to come up, Kenneth. So we'll come back to that. Okay. Here's the question. Is there a way to automate notifications through email without using Power Automate within a specific number of days, like a deadline? Okay. So Rundo Maze, hopefully I pronounced that right. So I'm going to assume that you're talking about, you said without Power Automate. So, excuse me, I got, whenever I talk a lot, for some reason I get a bunch of phlegm in my throat. So I'm going to assume that you're talking about within Power Apps. Okay. So let's say, now the downside of doing this in Power Apps, and the one reason I do rely upon Power Automate, let me move myself around here, is that as long as someone is coming into your app, you know, at least once a day or something, okay? So what we could do, would you be able to verify that for me? Are you okay doing this? And you said not Power Automate, so I'm assuming Power Apps. And will somebody be coming in here? So that's how it would get triggered. We could have some code that looks at notifications and looks at the current date and does a date diff, okay? And we could do this. Now, we could go into app on start. Every time somebody comes in the app, we can check there. Now, if you want to get away from app on start, which I recommend, I think eventually Microsoft's going to take that away from us. What I recommend that you do is you create a screen that is a loading screen. And you bring it here to the top. Of course, I can't drag it up there. I wish I could. We could go to app start screen. And what we could do is say, well, screen 3. That's going to be my loading screen. And what you could do here is on the screen on visible, the very first screen that comes up. Okay. We can send emails very easily. We add data, and we're going to add the Outlook Office. We just type in Outlook here. Office 365 Outlook. You add that as a data source. So you can easily send an email. To see how easy this works, all you got to do is say Office 365 Outlook, and we're going to say send email. Okay. Now, the first parameter will be who it goes to. So let's send an email to support@superpowerlabs.co. Okay. Now look at this. I love this little pop-up here. It shows me all the parameters I need to pass in here. So the next parameter is going to be the subject line. Just a test from a live stream. Okay, that's going to be the subject line. Now it wants the body. Now all 3 of these are required. So until you provide all 3, you're going to have an error. Okay, so here I'm going to say is the body of the email. Okay, so let's see what happens if I if I click off to a different screen, and then I come back to screen 3. Okay, It's a blank screen, but it loaded up. Okay. So in a moment or two, I would imagine it's going to pop up for me. Take a minute or two. Okay. So we're going to come back to that. Okay. Now, part of your other question is how do you do it with a number of specific days? I'm going to come back to that. Okay. Let's see here. H says, hi, Kenneth. Matt here. Hello, Matt. Let's see here. Darren, hello from Colombia. I wrote to you this week about the subject of the app versioning video. Um, yes, I'll have to get back to that. If you don't mind, give me to the end of today to get back to you on that. So I do juggle a lot of things. So feel free to respond to me like, hey, did you get this email or whatever? And a lot of times I get hundreds of emails a day. And I want to be the type of person that respond. I mean, I try to treat people the way that I would want to be treated. And if I send somebody an email, I would want a response. That's why I sent the email, right? So I absolutely want to respond to everybody. And a lot of times I start responding and I got all these screens up and I got all these things going on. And I do have ADD. My wife tells me I have autism. Okay. Uh, so what I'm trying to say is I get distracted very easily. And then when email comes, I start responding and then I'm like, oh, I'm going to get back to that. Or I'm about to send it, but I don't hit the send button, you know? So hopefully you guys can understand some of that. Let's see here. Very good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look here. Okay, very good. And did the email come in? It sure did, guys. Look at this. There's the email. Okay, so that's how easy it is to send an email. Okay, we're going to get back to the other portion of that. Now, Kenneth, let's go back to the one that you were asking about. Okay, so I'm looking at the private chat and we see here, oh, let's see. Made a questionnaire. Okay, so yeah, I had a ticketing system that had a questionnaire in here, right? And I think it might be this one. Okay. Now, please keep in mind, Kenneth, if you don't mind, if you're not able to talk here in the live stream, just go ahead and talk in the live stream chat because no one can see what you're typing in here as a panelist. Okay. So if you don't mind just chatting there with it, and I'm going to see everybody's chat here. So if you want, especially if you want to respond back to Matt, he's not going to be able to see that. Okay. All right. So the question that you had here, if I go back up to Kenneth's question, there is something that I don't understand in the code. Could we take a look at that? You use a switch. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go do a search for switch. Let's see what comes up. So edit tickets. Okay. So we got a dashboard screen and then we have an on select. So it must be this one. Oh yeah, we implemented the questionnaire inside the ticket. Now I'm starting to remember. I deal with so many apps all the time. I sometimes have a hard time keeping everything straight. So now that we're in here, I can do a control F and say switch. Here we go. Okay. And so we're patching a collection answers to questions. Okay. I do a switch here and I check the question type. Okay. That question type could be multiple choice, could be single line of text. Yes, no, numeric. Okay. So regarding this, what is your question here? So a switch is a lot like an if statement, okay? And any language that you learn, you know, Python, C, C++, JavaScript, everything is going to have an if type of construct and also a switch. Sometimes it's called select case if you're like an old VB programmer like myself or do VBA coding. It's called select case. Yeah. Yeah. Let me bring you back on here, Kenneth. All right. Can you hear me? Can you talk?
Hello?
Hello?
Okay.
Can you?
I was talking and talking, and I saw you had muted me.
Well, you're typing furiously, and I was trying to mute all the the key types, But so
Yeah,
anyway,
I know I
so
have to stop using forms.
yeah. Oh, you're gonna use forms now?
Yeah. No, to get back to the question,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'm really confused about the switch thing.
Hmm.
Is that because you made those questions in the app formulas or what? You made something in the app formulas about that.
Okay. Yeah, let's review the
Yeah,
whole
yeah. Let's
context of that
review it.
because I need to refresh it in my mind. Okay, so I'm going to click on this gallery here. This gallery is going to give us all the questions that are active. So we can have a question that we make inactive. Okay, so here's all the questions. Okay, now you did mention the app on start. Let's see what's in the app. I'm sorry, the app formulas, which I think is what you're talking about here.
Yeah,
S-
exactly.
Okay, so what we have here are question types. Okay, so if you're going to ask a question, they're not all going to be single line of text, right? Some of them could be multiple choice. Some of them could be a Boolean yes, no, checkbox or
Mm,
toggle. Some of them could be just a number, like how many kids do you have? A rating, like how did you like that dad joke on a scale from 1 to 5? Okay, so right now we just have 5 different question types.
mm.
So does that make sense? Where that's
Yeah, and
coming from and why?
the sort order, is that the what you talked about yesterday? Is that what you have done there? You made the
Mhm.
table.
Yeah, if there's any chance that you want to sort this and you don't want to alphabetically sort it, okay, and even if you want it sort of alphabetically, it's always going to be in the order in which it was added to a collection, or in this case, a table. Okay, so let's say single line of text, 99% of the time, it's almost always single line of text. We can make the sort order one, and by default, it's always going to be selected.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Um, can you summarize the code on this button as well?
sure.
Because you also made the show previous answers. That's what confuses me.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, well let's start at the top because I want everybody to benefit from this. Not just you, of course. So what we have here, this is a button that saves a ticket. So somebody comes in here and they type in the information like, "Hey, I need help." I'm creating a ticket here, and then we have a questionnaire for them to answer in order to submit the ticket. Okay, so we have 3 questions in a SharePoint. I think we used a SharePoint list. Okay. So this little save button here allows them to save any changes, or if it's brand new, it's going to submit the ticket. So here at the top, we do an update context. This allows us to store things into local variables that are only going to be in this particular screen. Okay, so we get a date time stamp, and we put that the current date time into that variable. Now we've got a local variable called local record. Now, the patch function allows us to add or update records into a data source. And the patch function returns the record that we either inserted that was actually updated or inserted. And we're gonna catch that in that variable. So we're gonna patch directly to the ticket. Look at this. We have a SharePoint list. I'm gonna hide your question there so we can better see what's going on. Make everything bigger. So we have a ticket table. And if it's a new record, we're going to create a new one by using the defaults function. Otherwise, we're going to use whatever record that was loaded up on the screen. Okay. Now, these are all the fields in the SharePoint list. And we're providing values for each of these. And a lot of times when I've got a patch statement, I sort of like to line these things up. It just looks cleaner, nicer. in my mind more maintainable.
Darren,
Yes.
can you go up a bit? The LOC new record,
Hmm.
the blue one under the if. Where did you declare that? Where do you declare that? Is that a that's not a function, is it?
No, if you ever see something like LOC, you know that that's a local variable. Now, that's actually a recommended best practice by Microsoft. So, whenever you create any variables by using update context, all these variables should start with LOC according to Microsoft. So, I follow those standards. So, if you ever see that, you know it's a local variable. Now, where do I create it? Well, I create it right here. Update context creates local variables.
Okay.
Now, if you're talking about LOC new record, that's not specified here. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go over here to search and I'm going to type that in. And we are on this screen. And let's click on that. And we'll say context variables, edit ticket screen. Okay, new record. So have you ever worked with this little item here, variables? It shows you where things are declared. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's click on that one. Okay, here's all the definitions. So screen.button. Okay. Now, typically, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just click on the screen and go to the on visible. Okay. Look at this new record.
Okay. So that's why I had a hard time finding that.
Hmm. Yeah. So your screen, if you want to initialize all your local variables, always put it in screen on visible. Now, what if you want to clean values up? Have you ever gone to a screen and the user does a bunch of stuff, or you're testing and you do a bunch of stuff, you leave the screen and you come back, and then all those old values are still there. Have you ever noticed
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you ever want to clean things up, go into on hidden and reset everything the way that it should be if somebody were to come back. That's what the on hidden is for. Okay. So you've got that. So let's take a look at this in more detail here. We do a lookup, which gives us an empty record. Okay.
But
Hmm?
but that if LOC, but where do you make it? Because that's your if that LOC
Mm-hmm.
record. But where is that
Okay.
made in that?
Okay. Yeah. Just give. It's been a few weeks since I've looked at this code, so let me think here. Um, yeah. For a second there, I thought this was no. This is just the LOC record. Okay. So you know what it is? It's passed in. That's what it is. So it's not defined here. You would think it would be defined here on the screen, but if we go over here, look at this. We have an add button. What does the add
Mm.
button do? We navigate to that screen where we're just on.
Ah. Okay.
Because they clicked on the new, add new, I'm going to set this to new record. And so you're
Mm.
actually, you can actually define your local variables on another screen by using a navigate. So
Okay.
that's another way you can define them. You don't see an update context here, but this
Yeah.
little curly brace, the third parameter, it's sort of like doing an update context over to the screen that you're going to. Yeah.
But I could just make that on the patch button, right? If I wanted to, I could make it, right?
Okay, so let's go back over to the other screen. I think that you have the question on,
Yeah,
and what
exactly.
you're saying. Okay, hold on. Let me get my thoughts out here, if you don't mind. We have a save button here. So you're asking about this code here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and do realize, Kenneth, like if as I'm answering a question, you may very well understand what I'm trying to say, but I'm being very thorough and verbose because other people are listening. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you could set this up here in this code. Now, the question is, why would you want to do that? And I've got an answer to that question, and you tell me if this is your answer too. A lot of times people, they want an app written and they want to do a lot of data entry. So if they enter a bunch of stuff and they hit the save button, they want a fresh new screen to enter a second record and then a third record and a fourth record. Now, is that what you're trying to do with that save button?
Yeah, yeah, actually,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So what you would do, you would go to the bottom after all this. And in that case, you probably don't want to navigate to a different screen, but you would just say update context and you use curly braces in here and say LOC new record true. So if I were to do this, let's try this out. Type in a bunch of stuff here. Okay. Type in some stuff and I'm going to say boom, 1 hour. Sure. How many slices of pizza? Oh, I want all the slices. I want a whole pizza. So I hit save. Okay. And you see that it blinked all this out here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now I need to write some code. I need to make this gallery respond to that. My video froze up there. Let me reset it here. Maybe. Ugh. Let me see if I can fix this really quick. I'll use that one and then go back. Hopefully that fixes it. Nope. That's a little frustrating. Okay. Okay. All right. So did I answer your question there?
Yeah, and then the last question is show previous answers. You have that button to the left on
Uh-huh.
that screen.
Yeah.
How do you make that? I guess.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. If I click on that,
Yeah.
what I was trying to do, I think that this was like the next feature that we're going to do. And we're filtering the previous ticket answers. Okay. Whatever question to answer. Okay. So let's say they go in here and they change their answer. Okay. So we have a collection here. Let's go do a search for this. And we'll go find out that. Okay. So edit ticket. So we created on the unvisible. We filter out the answers based on the ticket ID. Okay.
Mm.
That that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
remember we yeah.
go ahead.
I remember I think I requested you to make it because it would be cool that they could do it on the same screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So all I did was in this thing here, I've got a gallery that was a copy of this one, and it would load up all the previous ones. So every time now if we're gonna like set this up to be a new record, that's gonna mess that up. Okay. So you gotta make up your mind if you want to do that. Um, I mean, what we could do is if you do a new record, what you're going to have to do at that point is to go back home. Um, let's see here. Like go to the tree view, and then you would click on a record here. So I'll click on that. Okay, it pulls up a previous one. Now let's change the answer. So it says no. I'm gonna click yes, and I'm gonna just type in some stuff and hit save. That should save it all. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this answer to NA, and I'm going to type in something different, hit save. Okay. And if I show previous answers, what it should be doing is showing me the previous answers.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is now we loaded that up in the on visible here. Okay. So let's take this, and what we'll do is we'll load it up again. Um, there. Okay, so if I make that go away, I click on it again, it's going to go get everything, all my answers for this one. At least I'm hoping so.
Yeah, I couldn't
So
get it
my
to work either.
okay, yeah, just yeah. Let me give you the answer here. So we got all the answers here, and I'm going to go to that data, and we'll see. Let's go find. Okay, we are missing a ticket. No, that I guess this is the ticket ID. Okay. Now I'm going to say larger to smaller. Okay, so these are the answers, and this is ticket one. Okay. Okay, so that should be adding them each time. And the answers, as you can see here, there's the answers to these. And it looks like we're actually missing a ticket ID here. Okay, well, that would be a bug. So let's go back. Okay, and we've got the LOC record here. And then we go down here and we save all the answers. We have the LOC record ID. So that should be giving us that. Yeah, so it should be adding that. Let's see here. Let's give it another one here. And I'll say 111 and change that to 4. Hit save. Let's go to the data and see if it updated that. So here's the, now what it's doing, it seems like it's taking out, it's deleting it somehow. See, we got 22 and it skips over.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that nothing is being deleted. And I think maybe I deleted all the previous answers before we put that feature in. Okay. Oh yeah, look at that. See,
Darren.
it deletes it. So we do the remove if on the answer. I don't. You want to tell me why you're laughing or what's going on?
Yeah, I was just wondering.
You were wondering what?
I just wonder where that I remove. That is not in my the one that I have. That's
Okay.
strange.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to fix my video at the same time too. Okay. Very good. Yeah, if I remember right, we were adding in that feature near the end.
Yeah.
So adding features is like, have you ever messed around with a Rubik's cube? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you think you're fixing something. You twist something and like, oh look, I fixed it, but then you mess up other things. So what you got to do as you're implementing new features, you got to make sure all the previous features work. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
or that the previous ones aren't messing up the new feature. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this answer again. Okay. Now I'm going to click on this. Okay, look at this. Okay, so we have two answers, but they're not showing up here. So let's go in here. And what we're going to say is we're going to look up the last ticket answers on this question ID. Let's see what we have in here. Latest ticket answers. Oh, we got previous ticket answers. Okay, so that maybe that's what we should look at. Previous ticket answers. Is that the same thing? Okay. Question. Really, what we should be looking at is also, and the ticket ID is gal questions to answer. No, that should be LOC record dot ID. And I got to spell ticket right. Okay, so there we go. So now we have that. And then here, what we're going to do is we're going to look up that value. So we're going to look up on the latest tickets here. And we do have data. No, we don't have data there. Latest ticket answers. Previous ticket answers is what we need. Here. All right, where the question ID equals that. Now, I think what we should do, and I think this is leftover stuff from the previous gallery. So we say this item, like dot value or something. What is it called? Should be answer. Okay. Yeah, there it is right there. Answer. Now, because this is a slider, we want to make sure that we turn it into a number because the answer, if you see here, is a single line of text. Why is it a single line of text? Because we don't know what type of value we're really going to store, and the single line of text can hold most values, right? So I'm going to go back in here and let's see what that says. Okay. Cool. All right. So if I click on this, it says 4 and 6. Now, for some reason, the slider one. Okay, so it's looking at a different slider, I think. Nope, that is the right one. Now we were using the modern slider here, and we're setting that up to be the answer. What is going on here? And you see it says 4,
Yeah.
but we don't have a min and a max. Okay, so what is the min and the max for that control there? So we need to go find that. And there's no min and max here. Okay. Now a question will have a lower bound and upper bound. So what we should be doing here, the minimum we need to go do a lookup on the question, and we need to go look at this item dot question ID. So where the ID, the ID equals question ID, okay? And then what we're going to go look up is the lower bound. Okay, let's go look at the questions that we had back there. Okay, we got lower bound and upper bound. So it should be 0 to 8, lower bound, upper bound. Okay, now I want to copy this code because we go over to max and it should be right there. Okay, now.
Oh, you have to set it to upper bound.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. Upper bound. I was going to say, why doesn't this work? There we go. So here's the previous. Now, and it also includes the latest one. Do you like that, or do you want to omit the one that's on the right side?
I would just omit it, honestly.
Omit it? Okay.
Yeah.
So what we'll do here, I'm going to sort this. You always want to see the most recent ones at the top and go descending. Is that right? Or
Yeah, that's right.
okay. So we're going to sort this based on created, and we're going to say sort order dot descending. Okay. Now, we have them all, but what we want to do here is we want to take out the top one. So I'm going to say last in. So just give me the last values. How many of the last values? Well, I'm going to say the count. We'll do a count rows of what we were just looking at. And then we want to subtract one. Okay. So you see here we've got the 4. Now if I were to change this to 2 and hit save, that should save it. But we should put whatever code in here that refreshes these into the save button, really. So if I click on this again, it should go get that. So the current value is 2, and then we got the 6 and the 4.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Now I'm gonna go look at the other questions that other people have, and something I didn't think of that for this particular live stream. What's going to be best, probably for everybody, is if we have questions not based on a project, but based on, hey, how do you do this one little thing? You know what I mean? And because I want to answer as many questions as possible, and if it's based on a project, we could be sitting here building out this application for the rest of the live stream. You know what I mean? So hopefully that sounds reasonable to you there. Let's go on to let's go back to the Power Automate question. Okay, let's see if there was a follow-up on the this question, and I don't see it. Okay, so what I'm going to do, whenever we send an email here, you need to know, you need to look at some date. Okay, so let's say we've got a date and we put it into a global variable. Okay, and we're going to call this global date to compare. Now you might be pulling this from a database or a record. Okay, but what I'm going to do is say date. Well, I'm just going to give it a literal value here, and I'm going to say July 1st of 2024. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a semicolon there so I don't get an error on the other line. So we're going to put January 1st in there, but right now it's a string. So let's say date value. So then we'll have a date value. And then what we can do, now please realize this should be a dynamic value, not a hard-coded value like I just did. So I'm sure, Rundo Maze, that you've got some value maybe in your database, or maybe something that the user specifies in some way. You go get that. Maybe you do a lookup, okay, and you replace this thing with a lookup to get a date. So what you said here, within a specific number of days, like a deadline, okay? So what I can do here is if, let's do an if, this date okay, if that date is, let's say in 5 days. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's do something to this date. Let's add 5 days. So whatever this date value is, we're going to add 5 days to it. Okay, so we'll do a date add. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is say the number of units. So let's say after 5 days, units, it's going to be time units, 5 days. Okay. So this thing right here will be a lookup, or you go get it from a database or something dynamic. Then we're going to add 5 days to it and then put it in that global. Now, what we want to make sure is if that 5 day, if today's date, if today is greater than that deadline, then we're going to send this email. Okay, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to put it there. Now, notice I don't have an if block, an else block. Well, we don't need an else block at this point, right? So this parenthesis goes with this. So if today is less than that date, then we're not going to send any email. So I don't have an else block. So hopefully that completely answers that question. And if it doesn't, give me a follow-up question or a clarification there. All right, I'm going to keep going here. Let's see. Yeah, you're going to watch the replay, be able to translate. Okay, very good. Now, guys, I'm looking into a tool that will allow me to create videos in other languages, so that's sort of in the works. I don't have a timeline on that because I've got a lot of competing priorities and things that I'm juggling. So that eventually is something that I'm looking to do. Daniel, do you think Power Automate will be more flexible working with an Excel file in the future? Right now, an Excel file has to contain a table format, and you know what, Daniel, it's the same way for Power Apps as well. It's got to be in a table format. Has to be in a table format. I think the headers should not be changed. Yeah. So if you got to format it as a table, and usually that first row are the header values. Yeah. So do I think? I hope so, but I don't work for Microsoft, so uh, I don't know if they're gonna make it easier for us or not. But I know that there are over 1,000. I think they're up to 1,400 connectors within Power Automate. There might be a connector out there, so you could search for that and see. You know, let's see here. Daniel says, in the past, I've worked a lot with VBA. Okay, yeah, me too. I was an old VB6 developer. I'm able to work with index numbers. Is there also a solution in Power Automate? Now, I'm not a Power Automate expert, so I really can't speak to the Power Automate. I do know. You know what? Let's try this out, guys. Let's open up Power Automate. And I just want to create a new flow, automated cloud flow. I'm going to skip that and get right to it. Now, the trigger that I'm going to add, I'm going to put in here Power Apps. Okay, so we could call it from Power Apps if we want, but so there that is, and I'm going to add an action here. Now, everybody I talk with, they hate this new designer. So I'm going to save and switch. And what I don't like about a lot of automation software like Zapier and Power Automate is it won't allow you to save it until the thing works. So I guess I'm stuck with the new designer until I get things to work. At least one trigger and one action. Okay, let's add an action. I'm trying. Okay, I got to click on that. Okay. And then I go in here and let's do a Power FX. And I was almost sure that we had. I thought I saw that. Maybe I got to take the space out. And even though you could write Power FX expressions, some functions are not supported, like match. Like I was trying to do a regular expression check one time, and I couldn't use the match function. It's so weird. So yeah, so I can't really. I mean, I could sort of speculate and try to figure it out here. I've written Power Automate flows in the past, plenty of them, but I don't present myself as an expert in that for the reason that Power Apps is what most of my expertise is in. Okay, so let's see here. Why is it so difficult to make a responsive Canvas app suitable for all devices? Any tips? I often decide to build an app for the device. Yeah, yeah, this is a pain point for a lot of people, including myself. I don't like front end development. Okay, so I used to be a full stack C Sharp ASP.NET developer, creating websites and all the responsive type of stuff. Always, I just don't like front end development. I don't like working with HTML. I think it's like a sloppy thing. um, and you got CSS and JavaScript, and JavaScript I think is a very sloppy language, um, for many reasons. um, so yeah, I always want to do things on the server as much as I can. Well, here we have in Power Apps, we got these responsive containers. Okay, so what I've always done is I will create an app, a landscape oriented app. Okay, and let's see what this looks like on a phone. Okay, now if we do this, look at that. Why can't people use a Canvas app on their mobile device just by turning it sideways? I don't understand why not. This would solve so many problems. Is it responsive? No, but does it work on a mobile device? Yeah, it does. So what's the big deal, right? Um, it's a big deal it's a big deal for websites, okay? And a lot of times people are visiting websites on their mobile device. And a lot of times websites look horrible on a mobile device unless they're responsive. So when you're in Power Apps, it it's an application, but people equate like an app with a website. Well, of course it needs, everything we do has to be responsive, is like a thought that a lot of people have. So Microsoft implemented these responsive containers, and they're not easy to work with. And I tell people, it's like, hey, responsive design isn't, well, number one, for the faint of heart, but also it's not a beginner level topic for Power Apps. Okay. And so there's that. So what I'd recommend, whenever I build an app for someone, unless they say, hey, this has to be responsive, which I don't get that from clients. Now they might tell me, hey, this is going to be used on mobile devices, that type of thing. I'm like, well, I might actually ask them, like, hey, is it going to be used mostly on, mobile, portrait, is that how you want it? Um, I can write apps that are responsive without using those responsive containers. Okay. Um, and you dynamically move the X and the Y, the width and the height dynamically. Okay. Now that's extra work. Okay. So keep that in mind. But so there's different ways of doing it. The most simplest way, I believe, for everybody is to write a landscape oriented application and just tell these mobile users, just turn it sideways. Like it's not, but if the requirements call for it, then yeah, you're gonna have to do something responsive. And yeah, it's not very easy. And I hope over time that Microsoft makes it easier for us. Yeah. All right. So is it possible to download a screen as a PDF format in Power Apps? Yes. How do you do it? Well, first thing that you'll want to do is go into settings, and let's go look for a PDF feature here. Oh, look at this. There is an experimental feature for a PDF function. Okay, turn that on. Okay, look at this. Allows you to create PDF documents from screens, galleries, and containers. So those are the three things that you give the PDF function. So let's create a little button here. I'm going to use that cancel button if I can get to it. And I'll scroll down and I'm going to copy and paste. Put it over there. Move this over. And I'm going to call this print. Now, here's a question for you guys. Did you really like this ticketing system? Like, we could build onto this if you want. I'm sure, Kenneth, if you're still here with me, you probably say, heck yeah, right? This is a cool little app that we built. Yeah, Kenneth says, you know the answer. Yeah. Okay. So instead of using back, what we're going to do is say PDF. Okay. What do we put in here? Well, let's put the screen in. Okay. Now look at this. Let's not hard code a screen name. Let's say parent. Isn't that slick? So you can put a print button inside of containers, inside of galleries, and it will print whatever its parent is. That's a slick thing to do, right? Okay. Is that the only parameter? No, there's also options. And I'm going to guess here that the options are in a record type of format. So I'm going to type in, um, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell Perplexity, which is one of my favorite AI tools here, and I'm going to say, give me a good sample code using the PDF function for Power Apps. Let's see. And I'm hoping to get at all the parameter. Now I could just look up the documentation too. Okay. And what I love about Perplexity, it gives you the references that it's using to answer the question. We're going to make okay, and let me make sure. Okay, yeah, you got to turn on the PDF function. Okay. Let me give you guys the link to this that I'm looking at. Okay, so the buttons properties, like the PDF function, the target of the function. Okay, and they're using a screen there. Okay, and if you look, they're doing something similar. Now they're not saying parent; they're actually naming it. Now I'm not seeing all of the options, which is what I'm hoping to see here. Now, when you play the app, the PDF file is generated, stored in a variable. Okay, that's interesting. So you could send an email with the PDF. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Now, I was almost certain that this PDF function had some parameters like, and maybe that's print. Print does have, um, but I mean, there is a second parameter here for options, and I'd like to go into that. Let's see if I've got a good, okay, so here is, I'm going to remove formatting. And I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to go down here and paste this is the code that Perplexity gave me, okay? And what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to share the Perplexity link that I just generated on the other screen, so you guys can look at this, and you guys can get at that code that I just pasted in here. Okay, look at this. I was right. Size, orientation, margin, DPI. Okay, so you can specify all those things in the PDF function. Now, what you want to do is you want to grab the result of the PDF function, stored into a variable here. Okay, and you want to download it. Well, if you want to download it, you're going to have to use. What if we use a PDF viewer? Would that allow us to? This shows how to email it. You could use Power Automate to create the file in your OneDrive or SharePoint, and it will initiate the link, and then it would automatically download it. So that's something else. So I'm hoping that answers your question there. If not, give me a follow-up question in the chat there. Okay, so Andre says, hello. If I have a SharePoint list with more than 5,000 items, and I want to search an item in Power Apps, what is the best formula? Or is there a need for a Power Automate flow to search? Hmm. That's a good question. What? So here's a question back to you. So search is not delegable with SharePoint. Okay. Um, and if you have more than 2,000, of course, you're gonna have a delegation problem. Okay. So there is something that you can use called filter, and inside the filter, the second parameter is starts with, but that's not really a search, right? So that's probably why you said search. So if you can get away with starts with or ends with, use that. Um, how would I handle this? What I would try to do is filter it down. Okay. So let's say you write a filter that will give you a subset of the results to lower than 2000 and then do the search then. Okay. Now, how do you do that? Or, well, first of all, you might think to yourself, let's say if you're searching for a customer, let's say I wrote an app that keeps track of all my customers across the United States. Okay. So we got 50 states. And if I do a search in Florida and I have less than 2000, well, I can do I filter it based on what state they're in, and then I can do a search within that. Okay. You could do that. Um, but if you don't want to filter it down before you do the search to get down below the 2000, yeah, you're gonna have to rely on Power Automate for that. And it can, I've seen examples, I've seen blog posts about that. So, so your question is, or is there needed a Power Automate flow to search? Yeah, yeah, I would say so. So that's one of the drawbacks to using SharePoint. So I highly recommend that you use, Dataverse or SQL Server, but you may not have the licensing for everybody to use that. So, yeah, I would rely upon Power Automate for that. If you can't filter before, you got to filter it down below the 2000 and then do your search. Um, okay, Kenneth, I do see your chat. Anything that you type in the chat, in the private chat, there's no way for me to enable for you. So I'm the host. Let me see if there is. No, yeah, there's no option. So um, just maybe open up YouTube. Yeah, open up YouTube and type it there. Yeah. And every time you hit something in private chat, it pops up and covers up my screen. So I'd appreciate if you use the public chat there in YouTube. Okay, let's move on to Justin. What is the best way to deal with large data sets? Right now, I use Power Automate to get all the rows. There you go, over 20,000. So this goes in with what Andre's question was here a second ago. Okay, very good. So you do use Power Automate to do that. And it filters them, but it's slow. Okay. And I'm gonna assume that you're using SharePoint, right? So yeah, based on that. So this is a downside using SharePoint. Now you're not specifically mentioning search, okay? You can work with over 20,000 records in SharePoint as long as you use delegable functions, okay? So in a lot of cases, this all has to do with delegation. And what I'd recommend if you guys are able to check out the workshops. Now I'll include the link here for the workshops, and it's very affordable. I lowered the price down. I thought everybody could afford the price, but if you sign up here, it's $25 a month. Now I used to charge much more than that, and then it's like, well, I just want more people to be able to get to it, so I made it. And sometimes I actually do these workshops live, make them freely available on YouTube, um, and sometimes portions of them. Okay, but look at all these workshops that we have. We have one on delegation. Okay, now there's the MSF file we had for that, but this was a full workshop on delegation, and that link that I had up there shows you all the functions that are delegable or not based on what data source. Okay. So what I would recommend if you're working with that large data set is you slim it down using a filter function. okay, using delegable functions, okay? And then here's a question. There's no need for a user to see 20,000 records all at once, right? So you need to filter down some way. So here's something that I mentioned in the delegation. Don't use complex types. Don't use choice columns ever. Never use choice columns. Never, ever, ever, ever. And I actually have a YouTube video called "Never Use Choice Columns." Okay. Don't use complex types in SharePoint. SharePoint was created 20 years ago, and it was not designed for Power Apps. Okay. So don't use people pickers. Don't use choice. Don't use lookups. Okay. What can we use? The simple types: single line of text, multiple lines of text, date, time, numbers, and Booleans. Yes, no, checkbox, yes, no, true, false. Okay. Those are your simple types. So stick with those. And for the most part, those are all delegable, working with those. Um, except search. Okay. All right, very good. Moving on here. Need to find. Okay, we got a lot of questions. Okay. So yeah, thanks for the excellent tutorials. Well, thank you for watching them. You know, I have the same appreciation for you guys. If you guys weren't, watching my videos, then I wouldn't be making them, and I sort of get joy helping people out like this. So it's a win-win. The feeling is mutual. Depending upon where Excel is stored, you can also use storage-specific API to get around the Excel table issues. Okay, that's a great point, Jeremy. Thanks for adding that in. Now, where I'm concerned as a teacher and a trainer trying to help people do amazing things on the Power Platform is when you start talking about APIs, like if you have to create a custom API, a custom connector to an API. Now I do have a good video I did with Kurt, and Kurt was the one that researched it and did all the work. So do a search for that custom connector or API along with my name, Darren Neese, on YouTube, and you're going to find it, and it will show you how to do that. Okay. Juan, you should have a drink of water or tequila. Thank you. I think I'll take a moment to do this. Now the question is, uh, no, I guess I won't kid around about that, but this is water. With a liquid, you never know. Even though it's in a water bottle, you don't know what's in there. But this is water. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Um, you already answered my question. It helps. Thank you. Okay. Very good. You can add a compose action. Okay, thank you. That's what I was looking for. So let's add an action here. Compose. Okay, and I'm gonna believe it's this. Now, it goes to show you guys I'm not really well versed in Power Automate, so I don't feel comfortable. So it's one thing to be able to do something on your own. Like if I had to create something that had to do something, it would take me a amount of time. I'd have to figure it out and stuff. And then there's also another layer to this, which is when if you're sharing your screen and you're showing somebody, if anything that can go wrong will go wrong. There's another thing. Okay, and another thing is I got to think off the top of my head and also make it interesting so that people stick around or actually watch it. So if I just sat here for a solid 2 minutes and didn't say a word and I'm just looking at the screen thinking through or trying to click on different things, nobody would watch that. So I can think on my feet and do things within Power Apps that way, but I really can't do it with Power Automate, at least not yet. Okay, so one says, I don't get the data experience option. Okay, well, there is an option when you create a Power Apps environment. Let me actually show you this. You may or may not have access to do this within your organization. Do you know how much it costs to create your own Microsoft tenant? You bet it would be a lot of money, right? $6 a month. Have your own tenant. right? And if you're an accelerator student, I have a whole module showing you how to set up your own tenant and your, register a new domain and all that type of stuff. All right, so if I go into environments here, I can add a new environment. Look at this, get new features early. Okay. So if you can create an environment, and what I'd recommend, the developer plane has everything turned on. You can do anything you want in developer, but only you can use the environment. But why not create a developer environment and turn that on? Now, if you create something, you could package it up, export it, and then import it into a different environment where your organization allows you to publish things. So you got all kinds of options here. All right. So I hope there will also be an easy way to export data from a gallery to Excel in the future. I found only tutorials where I have to use Power Automate. Yeah. Well, you know what? There is an easy way of importing data from a gallery into SharePoint. Okay. And then you could export the data from a SharePoint list into Excel very easily. I always recommend people try. Now I know you got a lot of tools in Excel. Okay. I know that. But if you can get all that Excel data into a SharePoint list, and it's much more easy to work with, in my opinion. But I'm not an Excel guy, okay? But you can always export from a SharePoint list. So, um, importing data from a gallery into a SharePoint list is very easy, in my opinion. And I could show an example if somebody wanted to see that. Okay, Daniel, filter in working with the first X items and then next items. Maybe this will work. Okay, I don't know. Now, Daniel, I'm looking at your previous question. Okay, you're talking about okay, yeah, importing stuff from a gallery into Excel, filtering and working with the first X items and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if that relates to it. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there, or what it's regarding. I've been using search by filter and starts with on multiple field columns and it works. Okay, yeah. That's how I do search. If I got to work with SharePoint, that's how I do search. It's like, hey, it needs to start with this, you know? And then what you could do, is you could, let's say you want to search on multiple lines of text. Every time that is saved, what you want to do, or you could have a Power Automate that would do the same thing, but you could take a multiple lines of text and you could sort of break out phrases or the individual words and put those into a separate table, into a single column that is associated with the record. Okay. You could search on that and then you'd have a foreign key that would point over, and that would be a way of searching. And perhaps that's what you're talking about there. Okay. And Kenneth asks, Andre, what data type are you using? And Andre says single line of text. Kenneth says, I know how to do this with searchable combo box. Now, Kenneth, you posted, looks like you're no longer here with me. You posted in Skool, I believe, on that. So let's go see if we can go find Kenneth's thing here. So I'm going to say Kenneth. Okay, we got members. Here's Kenneth. I'm going to click on him, and I'm looking for, well, I think I messed this up. Let me go back one. Here we go. Okay. Kenneth, you did have something out here on that, right? I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to search for, okay, got one on star schema. I thought you did. Maybe it was over in the accelerator. Okay, Daniel says working with date type is also complicated because I'm living in Germany. So in Germany, we have the year per day format, and PowerOS has some problems checking the UE date because of the format. Okay. All right. Jeremy says, live stream struggle. Yeah, there are some struggles with doing live streams. Yeah, because you're juggling so many things. I got to make things interesting. I think on the top of it, I got to interact with you guys. I got to deal with any interruptions, and my toddler trying to break down my door. And all right. So anyway, I have a Power Apps for document management system and employees. And when you search an employee, I have a screen where I display his documents. So my document library will be more than 5,000 docs. Okay. And when you search an employee, let me show you something with a document library here real quick. You see I've got a document library. Every SharePoint site has one. So I could upload a bunch of docs, okay? Now, you notice that we have things like ID. I always like to show that. We have who created it, all that type of stuff, okay? You can create additional columns here. That's not a complex type, like created. You could put their name in there. You could do like some tags, or you could have, search terms or whatever. And then in Power Apps, you could search on those columns. Okay, so keep that in mind. That will probably really help you out with that. I've been using filter and starts with just wanted to make sure it won't break after 5,000. Now, SharePoint has a problem with over 5,000 for a view. Okay. But with Power Apps, we're not working with a view. We're working with a data source. So you can deal with more than 5,000. Ken says that's an easy fix. And guys, I'm going to let you know, if you guys are all in the community here, you guys can interact with each other. So I see you guys helping each other out, and that is a beautiful thing that I love, because I actually posted something over in the accelerator about this, if I can find it really quick here. And it's this thing here. I don't want to be this guru that everybody has to go to. I like to lead a community. And the fact that you guys help each other out is a beautiful thing, because there's only so much Darren to go around, right? So that's great. So guys, make sure you join the community, and you'll find Kenneth there. You'll find myself. I also hire staff to make sure that everybody's questions are getting answered. And sometimes I answer them, but I don't got time to answer everybody's question, but I try. Okay. Okay. Yeah. One says, for being in Colombia, I get the following message. Okay. Now I wonder, what if you were to create a tenant? Now do realize, if it's a new feature, it might be a matter of like a month or something, and then you will get access to it. But you could create a tenant that's based in the United States if you wanted to get it, something like that. Absolutely. So, so guys, my son that likes to try to break down my door. So he just turned 5, and I'm going to be going off to Chuck E. Cheese and celebrate his 5th birthday. But really, the burning question in everybody's mind should be what? Which one of Darren's videos should I watch next, right?
So you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, gotta hurry, click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's going to autoplay some other video.